A simple one today. I just wanted to look at the address book normalization requirements for telephony numbers that are held in your Active Directory. If they're not held in the right format, then they won't be transferred across to your address book. So obviously that will lead to an issue, because essentially what happens is you can't see the numbers within your Lync client. It's probably one of the most common queries I get from companies that have put in enterprise voice themselves and run into issues with these directory numbers. So let me show you what I mean. So we've got our Lync client here. There we go. I'm going to look up a contact. We'll go for Derek. We look at Derek's call information and there's no telephone number in there. So let's have a look at Derek's setup in Active Directory. So in the directory, you'll see that he's got a telephone number, but it's set up in a normal format, so it's not in E164. If we have a look under the telephones tab, there's also his mobile number and also his 4-digit extension. So obviously they're not in the right format, they won't make it through to your address books. So what we're going to do is look at the process for actually converting and translating those numbers into the relevant format. So before we do that, let's just look at a couple of things that I've done to this machine just to make the testing and make the demo a bit simpler. So the first thing you should know anyway, is that the address book files are not downloaded immediately on the Lync 2010 client. What I have done is I've added a registry key, which is here. It's in the blog, so I won't run through the path, which is the GAL download initial delay, and set that to 0. So essentially what that means is the address books will be downloaded immediately once we fire up the client. Just helps with the demo, helps me show you what it means. So the other thing we'll need to be able to do is delete the address books that are downloaded. So let me just sign out of the client, and then we'll find these address books. They're under your profile. For example, I'm currently logged in as administrator. You'll need to change your view so you can see hidden files. So pop into App Data, Local, Microsoft, Communicator, and that's the test user that we're using, Andy Pandy. So in there, you'll see the 2 GAL contacts. So what we're going to do is just delete those. So now what we have are no address book files on the local client for Andy Pandy. So what we'll do now is we'll move on and have a look at what's involved in actually normalizing those files. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a normalization text file that contains a number of rules that both set what we're searching for in the directory, so what numbers we're looking for, and also how to transform those numbers into an E164. It's fairly easy to do, and there's a couple of cheats that you can do to make it quite simple as well. So we need to create this text file. Now the text file is stored in the address book file share. So what I'm going to do is actually look at my Lync data share, which for my system is on my domain controller. It's under there, Lync share, and we need to go into web services and then AB files, which are the address book files. So in there, we need to create a normalization text file. So what I'm going to do is right click, new text document, and then I'm going to create a file called company phone number normalization rules. Be careful if you're European, because it's spelled with a Z, not with an S. And all that is a straightforward text file. There we go. So let's open it up. So currently there's nothing in it. So the first rule we want to add is something that searches for our national number and converts it into its E164 format. So if you don't know regex, there is a simple way to do this, and there's a bit of a cheat you can do with the control panel as well, which I'll show you. So let's jump into our control panel. There we go. Have a look under voice routing. And in there, you should see a number of dial plans or voice routes or whatever. There'll be the options in there as well. So what we're going to do is have a look in our dial plan and just edit it. I'll show details there. And you'll see that there's a number of normalization rules associated with this dial plan. Now we're not going to modify this dial plan at all. All we're going to use it for is to get the right format for the regex conversion that we want to put in. So I'm going to do a new rule. Now what we want to search for is something that starts with 0121, which is the national numbers that we're trying to convert, is at least 11 digits long, and we're going to remove the leading 0, and we're going to add +44. Now what you'll see is that a number of patterns will appear in these two boxes here. The first one, that's what the search pattern is going to be. Okay, so essentially what that's showing is what numbers is the normalization process looking for in the active directory. So we'll select that and paste it into our document. Okay, now if you look back here again, what you'll see is there's a translation rule. Now what that translation rule does is converts the numbers that it's found and then translates it according to this rule. So we're going to copy that one in. There we go. So we've now got a translation rule that will convert our national numbers and put them into an E164 format. So let's save that file. Obviously make sure you cancel out of this rather than saving it because, well, you don't want to modify your DAO plans really. So let's now regenerate our address books, and what we'll do is we'll have a look and see what effect that's had on our client. So to regenerate the address books, what we're going to do is jump into the Lync Server management shell. There we go. And we're going to use the command update-cs address book. I'm going to put verbose on the end as well, just so it ups the logging level slightly. So do that, let it run. It can take up to 5 minutes, I believe. If you want to check to see when it's finished, you can do that from Event Viewer. So pop in your application logs into your Lync server. You'll see a number of events in there once it's finished. So let's wait for that to complete. So that's finished. We can see there's a number of events here. So let's quickly run through them. You can see that it started there. It's completed. It's given us a quick summary of what it's done. We'll look at that in a bit more detail in a few minutes. And then it tells you when the next synchronization will start. So what we'll do is fire at the client and just see what effect that's had. So first thing first, just make sure you don't have your gal contacts and gal contacts dbx in your directory, in your profile for your Lync client, because it may make the results a little bit inconsistent until they've updated. So what we'll do is we'll delete those and then we'll log into our Lync client here. There we go. We should see our gal contacts and our db.rdx appear because we've set it to download the address book immediately. And now what we should see is that when we look up Derek, we should see that his work number's now appeared in the directory. So that's great for his work number, but you'll notice that his mobile number nor his IP phone number, his 4-digit extension number, they're not appearing. And the reason for that, if we look in our normalization file, currently we're only searching for numbers that start with 0 and 121. So we need to give a bit of thought to what rules we use. So for example, just searching for 0121 is only going to normalize numbers that start with 0121, obviously. We wanted to normalize numbers that also cover national and international numbers as well. So let's modify that file and look at how we might do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is delete what's in there, and I'm going to use that control panel trick to actually produce our normalization files as well. So let's fire up our Lync Server control panel. And we're going to pop into our voice routing because we're going to use that to produce our regex normalization strings. And we're going to pop into edit. And then we're going to do new. Now the first one, and this is a common mistake by the way, is certainly in the UK, when you search for numbers, you want to search for international numbers first. So they are numbers that start with 00. If you do your international ones last, then numbers that begin with 0 can often get caught by this route. So what we're going to do is start with numbers that begin with 00. We're going to be at least 11 digits. We're going to remove both of those leading zeros, and we're going to add just the plus. And there's our patterns. So what we'll do is just copy those out. There we go. Now if you want to test it, it's easy enough. You've got a dialed number test down the bottom. So if we wanted to test I believe that's a New York number. We can test our dial plan. You can see that it has normalized it to an E164 number, so we know that one's correct. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to normalize numbers that are national numbers, so begin with 0. So we're going to begin with 0, at least 11 digits. We're going to remove 1, and we're going to add +44. Again, if you want to test it, enter a national number, or even a mobile number. There we go, and you can see that converts successfully. Copy them across. Now the last one we want to convert are our 4-digit extension numbers. Okay, so we know that our 4-digit extension numbers in my demo lab, they start with 0 and are exactly 4 digits long. We're not going to remove any digits, but we do want to add something at the beginning. So what I'm going to do is just jump into here and find out what those digits are that I want to add. Okay, so it's the first part of that number. So I'm going to add 44, 121, and then 332. And that will convert my 4-digit extension number to the DDI number. And there we go. So we copy those out. Put them in there. Now if you want to, you can add comments in here. You just put the hash key in and then put your comment into that box. I'm going to cancel my normalization rule there because I don't want to save it. And then drop out of my control panel. Okay, so we've now got our conversion, and we've covered international numbers that begin with 00. We've covered national numbers that begin with 0, and we've also covered our 4-digit extensions. So again, what I'm going to do, save that file. I'm then going to fire up our Lync Server control panel. No, I'm not. I'm going to fire up our Lync Server management cell. There we go. And then I'm going to update CS address book again. So while that's running, what I'm going to do is just sign out of my Lync client. And I'm going to get rid of my gal contacts files from my profile. So we just need to wait for that address book synchronization process to finish again. So let's come back to it when it's done. Okay, we can see in the logs now that everything's finished. Synchronization is done. So what we'll do is log into our client. Firstly, make sure again that you don't have your gal contacts. Make sure they're deleted, and then we'll pop in and sign into our Lync client. There we go. We should see our gal contacts download. So what we should be able to do now is search for Derek. There we go. And we click call. We should be able to see his mobile number now as well. Now, just one quick thing on that. Of course, remember that you do have privacy relationships to think about here. Because obviously if you're by default, for example, only a colleague, then you won't be able to see, for example, a mobile phone. So if you are testing, make sure that your test accounts have the right privacy relationship between them. But in principle, the process of doing your address book normalization is pretty straightforward. It's not particularly difficult. The hardest thing is probably getting those rules correct. But if you use the control panel to formulate those rules for you, it does make it a little bit simpler.